Come closer, my noble squire, and listen well. 400 years ago, humanity's pride brought the world to the edge of ruin. And the echoes of that same catastrophe now begin to stir once more. In the kingdom of Metallicana, monsters descend upon the castle, while traitors open the gates from within, turning what should have been a stronghold into a battlefield of betrayal. But amidst the chaos, one fragile hope remains. A timid child. And within him sleeps a power so dangerous, even whispering its name feels like a sin. Let us begin.
4.
400 years ago, the world stood upon the edge of its golden age. Civilization had risen to a height few could imagine, cities stretching across continents like veins of light. Yet, beneath that brilliance, humanity rotted quietly. Greed, betrayal, and ambition festered in every corner of the world, until even peace itself began to feel like a fragile lie. In their desperation, mankind reached for forbidden power. They sought to command the darkness itself, believing it could be bent into a weapon strong enough to erase war forever. But darkness does not obey dreams. It looked into the hearts of those who summoned it, and saw only corruption staring back. And in that moment, it declared judgment upon the world. The power they tried to control turned upon its creators. Cities collapsed into shadow, and civilization was pushed to the brink of extinction as the very force meant to save them became their executioner. It was the end of mankind as it was known, or so it should have been. But then, the heavens split. A pillar of blinding light tore through the earth itself, as though reality had been pierced by divine judgment. From within that radiance emerged a being beyond mortal understanding. Draconic in form, yet bearing the shape of a man, vast wings stretching like broken skies, and a great sword held in absolute silence. It was as if hope itself had taken a body. The dragon did not hesitate, for in the same moment it appeared, it recognized its enemy. From the depths of the collapsing world, the darkness rose to meet it, and the two forces collided as though fate itself had chosen this battlefield. Their war was not measured in days or hours, but in devastation. Continents sank beneath raging seas, mountains shattered like glass, and the sky itself seemed to fracture under the weight of their clash. When at last silence returned, the dragon stood victorious. The darkness had been driven back, its will broken, its presence scattered into myth. Yet victory came at a cost too great to comprehend. The world was no longer whole. It was only surviving. And so, the truth of that battle faded with time. What remained became legend, and legend became half-remembered myth. 400 years passed, and the world forgot the true weight of what it had survived. Until now, in the central continent kingdom of Metallicana, that forgotten history begins to echo once again through fire and blood. A dark figure moves beneath a tattered cloak. Osborne, a summoner of monsters, stands at the heart of an invasion that has already begun to tear the kingdom apart. Behind him, an army of creatures surges forward without mercy, driven by a will that does not belong to this world alone. At the city walls, soldiers struggle desperately to hold the line. The attack has come at the worst possible moment, The king is absent, the knights are scattered. Even the high priest is nowhere to be found. Only a handful of defenders remain between order and annihilation. The gates begin to crack under relentless assault. Steel bends, stone fractures, and as panic spreads through the ranks, the commander's voice cuts through the chaos, ordering his men to hold fast, to resist, even if it costs everything. But across the battlefield, Osborne rides forward as if the city already belongs to him. With a single command, he unleashes his forces without restraint. The invasion becomes a flood that cannot be stopped. Inside the collapsing fortress, the remaining defenders retreat toward the church. There, they gather around Princess Sheila of Metallicana, swearing to protect her, even as the walls around them begin to fall. Elsewhere in the chaos, a young boy named Lucian runs through the ruins, desperate to escape the destruction swallowing the city. His path is cut short by a soldier, only for a red-haired girl named Yoko to step in. She scolds his fear, yet gently wipes away his tears, offering a moment of fragile humanity in a world tearing itself apart. And as their brief encounter lingers in the shadow of war, something far greater begins to stir beneath the surface of this dying kingdom. Back inside the church, panic tightens its grip as soldiers report that the enemy is drawing closer with every passing moment. The sacred walls that once symbolized safety now feel fragile, like they could collapse under the weight of war itself. In the midst of this rising fear, Yoko holds Lucian close, her thoughts drifting into a memory she has tried to bury. A secret her father, the high priest, once entrusted to her in whispers, meant never to be repeated. He had taught her a forbidden spell, one tied not to salvation, but to awakening. A technique capable of releasing a sealed existence hidden deep within Lucian's soul. That being was none other than the reincarnation of Schneider the Dark, a name spoken only in fear and legend. And the ritual demanded a maiden's kiss, a final act meant to be used only when the kingdom stood at the edge of destruction. As the memory fades, Yoko tries to steady herself, but fear creeps back in like smoke filling a sealed room. Outside, the enemy presses closer, and Lucian is once again threatened, forcing her instincts to flare in protection. Princess Sheila turns to her with desperation in her voice, pleading for her to release the sealed power within the boy. But Yoko hesitates, torn between terror, embarrassment, and the weight of a choice that cannot be undone. Before any decision can be made, the doors of the church burst open as Osborne and his monsters storm inside. He declares without hesitation that the princess will die here, as betrayal reveals itself from within when ministers expose their role in the invasion. Osborne thanks them coldly for their cooperation, then orders their execution without a flicker of mercy. The church, once a place of refuge, becomes a slaughterhouse as steel and screams fill the air. Amid the chaos, soldiers are cut down without resistance, and a giant strikes Lucian with brutal force, leaving him wounded on the ground. Something inside Yoko breaks at the sight of him lying helpless, and fear finally loses its hold. With trembling resolve, she begins chanting the forbidden words her father once taught her, and with a hesitant kiss, she completes the ritual that was never meant to be used. A surge of dark energy erupts outward like a storm, breaking free from chains long bound. When the light fades, Lucian is gone. And in his place stands a tall man with white hair and an overwhelming presence. Dark Schneider has returned, and the air itself seems to recoil from his existence. Osborn watches in stunned silence as the battlefield shifts in an instant. Still struggling to comprehend what stands before him, Osborn orders his remaining golems to attack without hesitation. But Dark Schneider barely acknowledges the command, telling him to be quiet, as if he were nothing more than an annoyance. With a casual gesture, he casts an explosive spell of overwhelming magnitude. The resulting blast tears through both golems instantly, reducing them to nothing but scattered remnants. Osborn freezes as realization begins to creep in, his confidence cracking for the first time. Only the highest tier sorcerers should be capable of magic of that scale, yet this man had done it effortlessly. Across the ruins of the church, Yoko stares at him and asks if he is truly Lucian. Dark Schneider turns to her and confirms it in a calm voice, saying that, in a sense, he is still the same boy she knew. He reminds her that they grew up together, as if the destruction around them means nothing at all. Then, with unsettling ease, he reshapes ancient magic to form a cloak around himself, standing as though the battlefield is beneath his notice. Yoko's next question hangs heavy in the air, trembling with fear and uncertainty. She asks if he is no longer Lucian, but the infamous Dark Schneider. Dark Schneider answers without hesitation, confirming that he is both the reincarnation of Schneider the Dark and Lucian at the same time. The truth of it twists reality itself, two identities existing within one body, neither fully in control. Princess Sheila whispers his name in disbelief, recalling the stories she was raised to fear. A man tied to destruction and a legend that should never have returned. 15 years earlier, Dark Schneider had ignited the Golem War, a conflict that left entire regions in ruin. It took Prince Lars, one of the 5 heroes, to finally bring him down in a battle that cost countless lives. Even as he lay dying, it was said he used a forbidden reincarnation spell to escape death itself. And in that war, Prince Lars, Sheila's elder brother, lost his life. Now that same man stands once again in front of her, alive, awake, and more dangerous than history ever dared to record. The loyal old minister falls to his knees before Dark Schneider, his voice breaking as he begs for salvation. He pleads for him to strike down the invaders and rescue what remains of the kingdom. But Schneider simply turns away, unmoved by desperation, and says he has no intention of helping them. Yoko is stunned by his words and demands to know why he would refuse at a time like this. Schneider answers with cold, unsettling honesty, saying Yoko has always stayed by his side and allowed him to act freely without restraint. Because of that, he declares he will only save her and no one else, leaving the rest of them to die without hesitation. The ministers recoil in horror, realizing they stand before a man bound by no sense of duty or mercy. He makes it clear that while they may owe him their lives, he owes them absolutely nothing. The air in the room grows heavy as fear turns into suffocating silence. Then Yoko snaps, cutting through the tension with fury as she unleashes a stream of insults at him. She calls him a cheap, good-for-nothing, monkey-faced, cold-blooded bastard, demanding to know if this is truly who he is. Schneider pauses, holding his head in frustration, as if the situation itself has become unbearable. He mutters that if she continues talking like that, he is completely finished, before anything even begins. Even Princess Sheila steps forward, adding her voice to the growing pressure in the room. What was once terror now becomes a desperate collective attempt to force a monster into acting like a savior. At last, Dark Schneider sighs and gives in, muttering that fine, he will deal with it. He admits that he owes Yoko far more than he is willing to say out loud. The moment he agrees, Yoko instantly brightens and rushes into him, hugging him tightly as if she has already won the battle. She cheers him on with reckless relief, as though the danger outside has already been solved. Outside the church, Osborne erupts in fury, shouting for them to stop wasting time with meaningless talk. He declares that the Great One has chosen his army to erase Metallicana completely from existence. Then he begins gathering immense magical energy, preparing what he claims is the most powerful lightning spell in existence. The sky itself begins to crackle as energy converges around him, and even the air feels pulled toward his command. The old minister realizes in terror that all surrounding magical force is being drawn into a single point. Osborne's voice rises as he completes his chant, calling upon murderous lightning born from the shadowed mist. With that final invocation, he unleashes Bauvolt, a devastating bolt of divine lightning that tears through the battlefield toward Dark Schneider. The lightning strikes him directly, exploding in a blinding surge of power. Yet, when the light fades, he still stands completely unharmed, as if the attack was nothing more than a passing breeze. He calmly remarks that the spell barely did enough to polish him, his tone almost bored. Yoko cries out in fear for Lucian, but Dark Schneider has already vanished from where he stood. In an instant, he reappears behind Osborne without anyone even sensing his movement. Osborne spins in shock and swings his spiked mace in desperation, but Schneider catches it effortlessly, as though it weighs nothing at all. He warns Osborne not to scratch his beautiful face, his voice calm and mocking. Then, without another word, he declares that he will kill him and begins chanting a spell far more dangerous than anything the battlefield has yet seen. Calling upon the infernal force burning deep within the shadowed mist, Dark Schneider shapes raw hellfire into obedience. He commands it to become the blade that will end his enemy's existence. In an instant, the air tears open as a massive eruption of fire engulfs Osborne completely. The summoner does not even have time to scream. His body is reduced to nothing, erased from existence as though he was never there at all. When the flames fade, only silence remains where he once stood, and the battlefield falls into stunned stillness. A moment later, the surviving soldiers erupt in cheers, relief washing over them like a breaking storm. The old minister rushes forward in gratitude, thanking Schneider profusely for saving them all. Even Princess Sheila, still shaken by everything she has witnessed, admits that the man before them is truly the ancient sorcerer of legend. Yoko calls out to him, but Schneider does not even turn to acknowledge her. He walks straight past Princess Sheila's words of thanks, as if they carry no weight at all. The ministers immediately scold him for such disrespect toward royalty, their voices filled with outrage and disbelief. But Schneider ignores them completely, pulling Yoko close instead. He asks her directly if she has anything more personal to say to him. Flustered and red-faced, Yoko stammers out a quiet, "Thank you," unable to meet his gaze for long. Schneider scoffs lightly, while Yoko quickly slaps his hand away and reminds him that now that the enemies are gone, it is time for him to return to being Lucian. Without warning, he disappears. In the next instant, he reappears outside the ruined church, as though distance itself means nothing to him. Yoko immediately runs after him and demands to know where he is going. He replies calmly that he has his own matters to attend to. When she presses further, asking what matters could be more important than saving the kingdom, he answers without hesitation. First, he intends to take revenge on her father for sealing him away. Then, he will begin a war that will lead to the conquest of the entire world. Yoko freezes in horror and calls him a demon for speaking such words so casually. Schneider tells her that she has nothing to fear because he will still keep his promise to spare her. He gently places his hand against her cheek, and her heart begins to race uncontrollably as she wonders if he is using some form of magic on her. But Schneider denies it completely, saying no spell is being used at all. Then Yoko, shaken and confused, asks him directly if he has feelings for her. His answer comes instantly and without hesitation. He says he feels nothing but irritation toward her, especially because she constantly orders him around. Before she can react, he suddenly pulls her in and kisses her. The moment breaks her thoughts completely, leaving her frozen in shock as the world seems to stop around them. But then, a ring of glowing magic suddenly wraps around Schneider's body, tightening like a seal. He realizes immediately that something is wrong and demands to know what she has done to him. As he shouts in frustration, his body begins to shrink, collapsing back into its original form. In seconds, the terrifying sorcerer is gone, replaced once again by Lucian, the frightened boy who knows nothing of what just happened. Lucian opens his eyes in confusion and asks Yoko what is going on. Yoko, now understanding the truth, realizes that just as her kiss awakened Dark Schneider, another kiss may have been the trigger that sealed him away again. She quickly hides the truth from him, telling him that the monsters have already gone elsewhere. Lucian immediately relaxes and smiles as if nothing had happened. Then, completely unaware of the destruction and power that just unfolded, he says he is hungry and asks Yoko to go home with him. Yoko forces a gentle smile and agrees, walking beside him as the chaos fades behind them. And so, after a night filled with blood, betrayal, forbidden magic, and the return of an ancient monster, the kingdom is left standing once more. But beneath the fragile peace, one truth lingers like a shadow waiting to awaken. Because once a monster remembers who he is, sealing him again may only delay the moment he returns. Meanwhile, word of Osborn's defeat spreads far beyond the borders of Metallicana, rippling through the world like a disturbance in fate itself. In the distant kingdom of Judas, reports arrive confirming that Osborn's army was completely annihilated during the invasion. Even more shocking, the sorcerer responsible is said to have used the forbidden spell, Venom. A white-haired man on horseback reacts with immediate disbelief. He mutters that such a thing should be impossible because Venom was meant to have been erased alongside Schneider the Dark 15 years ago. The very mention of that name carries a weight that silences those around him. Something long buried is beginning to surface once again. Nearby, Gara and Lars ride with their forces as they carefully assess the situation. Gara struggles to accept the report, pointing out that Osborn had lived for over 2 centuries and was regarded as something close to a demon. Whoever defeated him, he reasons, must be a monster of equal or greater magnitude. Yet the message remains consistent, and none of them can ignore it. As realization begins to settle in, Lars falls silent, the implication slowly overtaking his thoughts. There is only one person in the world capable of casting that spell. The armored knight beside him confirms it without hesitation. The sorcerer they are dealing with can only be Dark Schneider. At that moment, Kalsu makes a decision. The only way forward is confirmation, not speculation. Across the group, Abigail calmly suggests sending Kevidubu, a Hydra summoner, ahead as an advanced test. Gara agrees, recognizing it as the most reliable way to verify the truth. If this unknown sorcerer defeats Kevidubu, then there will be no further doubt. It will confirm beyond question that Schneider the Dark has returned. And if that truth is real, then the world is no longer standing on the edge of war, but something far worse that is yet to fully reveal itself. Far from the discussions of kings and warriors, Yoko struggles to find peace after everything she has witnessed. That night, sleep drags her into a disturbing dream she cannot escape. She finds herself standing alone in a quiet field filled with flowers, where everything feels strangely calm at first. But the calm does not last. Dark Schneider appears before her, completely naked, calling her name as though nothing in the world has changed. He steps forward and embraces her, leaving her confused and unsettled, unsure whether she is dreaming or trapped in something far more real. Schneider denies her uncertainty and calmly points behind her. When she turns, her breath catches in horror as she sees her father's corpse lying among monsters. The peaceful field collapses into something far darker as death replaces beauty in an instant. Overwhelmed by fear, Yoko screams and suddenly wakes up in her room, gasping for air. She realizes it was only a nightmare, but the feeling of dread refuses to leave her. Then she notices Lucian sleeping beside her, completely unaware of what she has just experienced. Embarrassment washes over her as she remembers bringing him into her room after the chaos of the previous day. Morning eventually arrives, and for a short while, life tries to return to normal. At the breakfast table, Yoko scolds Lucian for eating too quickly, and for a moment, everything feels almost ordinary again. But that fragile peace is quickly broken. Yoko looks outside and notices strange black clouds rising from the direction of Judith Castle. A deep unease settles in her chest, as though something irreversible is approaching. At the same moment, her father, High Priest Gio, arrives and recognizes the omen immediately. Without hesitation, he decides there is no time to waste. He takes both Yoko and Lucian with him, and together they move toward the castle, unaware that what awaits them may mark the beginning of a far greater calamity. Inside the throne room, tension spreads like a slow poison as another soldier rushes in with devastating news. Judah's castle has already fallen, its king slain by a monstrous army led by a powerful sorcerer. Before anyone can fully process the loss, a second report confirms something even worse. A division of that same army is already marching toward Metallicana. The king of Metallicana stiffens, his face tightening as fear begins to creep into his authority. Beside him, High Priest Gio explains that this sudden surge in monster activity is no coincidence. It is a sign that something far greater is unfolding, the resurrection of the evil god Anthrasax. The name alone makes the room feel colder, as if the air itself has changed. Before anyone can respond, another alarm cuts through the chaos. A hydra serpent is attacking the east gate, climbing the tower as it tears through defenses. Panic erupts immediately as the situation begins collapsing faster than anyone can contain. Order inside the castle starts to break apart. Outside, atop the massive creature, Kevidubu stands calmly, as if observing a controlled experiment. He orders the Hydra forward, not for conquest, but to confirm what he has already begun to suspect. He wants to see for himself the sorcerer who defeated Osborne, the one now shaping the future of war. Inside the castle, the ministers lose all composure as realization hits them. There is only one name left that carries any hope of survival: Dark Schneider. In desperation, they turn to Yoko and beg her to release him once again. Their voices are frantic, clinging to the only solution they can imagine. Yoko refuses at first, her voice sharp with fear and anger. To her, Schneider is not a protector, but a dangerous and unpredictable monster she cannot trust. But Geo steps forward, calm but firm, explaining that their magic is purely defensive and cannot match what is coming. What they need is overwhelming destructive power, and only Schneider can provide it. The weight of the situation presses down on her as she hesitates. Every second feels like a decision between salvation and disaster. In the end, her resistance breaks and she reluctantly agrees. She tells Lucian to close his eyes, and with a trembling breath, she leans in and kisses him. Dark energy erupts instantly, flooding the room like a storm breaking free from confinement. Lucian vanishes within that surge of power, and when the light settles, Dark Schneider stands in his place once again. He stretches slowly, as though waking from a long and unpleasant sleep, completely unbothered by the chaos around him. Yoko immediately orders him to go and fight, but Schneider refuses without hesitation. His first demand is not duty, but vengeance. He declares that he intends to kill Geo, the man responsible for sealing him away. In an instant, the situation shifts again as he blocks the exit and faces the king and Princess Sheila with cold intent. He names Geo as one of the 5 heroes who once sealed him and strikes first with Bauvolt, a violent surge of lightning aimed directly at him. But Geo does not falter. He raises Al-Namu Rabin, a holy spirit barrier that absorbs the attack completely, neutralizing the magic without effort. Calmly, he explains that this shield can nullify all forms of magic. Frustration flickers across Schneider's face as he abandons ranged spells and moves in for direct combat. Yet even in close quarters, Geo evades every strike with precise ease. Realizing brute force alone will not break him, Schneider shifts his thinking. He recalls something buried beneath the castle, a hidden golem he placed there 15 years ago, and a far more dangerous method begins to take shape. Using his own blood, Dark Schneider draws a forbidden magic circle directly into the air. The sigils ignite with dark energy as reality itself trembles, and from beneath the castle, the giant golem he once buried begins to awaken. Stone cracks, the ground splits, and a colossal figure rises with overwhelming force. Geo's expression hardens in horror as he immediately understands the danger. His holy barrier can negate magic, but it is useless against something that size and weight. This is not a spell he can cancel. It is pure destruction given form, and it is already moving. At that exact moment, Kevidubu finally arrives, standing proudly atop the Hydra as if he is presenting himself for judgment. He introduces himself as Kalsu's disciple, confident and unshaken, and prepares to engage in battle. Schneider glances at him once, then immediately begins mocking him without restraint, insulting him as though he is nothing more than background noise. Without hesitation, he commands the golem to attack. The battlefield erupts in a single crushing instant. The golem descends with unstoppable force, crushing the Hydra beneath its weight as bone and scale shatter on impact. Kevidubu is sent flying, without even a chance to respond, his confidence erased in a heartbeat. The entire encounter ends before it truly begins. But Schneider's expression darkens when he notices his creation has been stained by the fight. Irritation turns instantly into wrath, and he raises his hand with lethal intent. He casts venom, unleashing a catastrophic burst of destructive magic that engulfs the battlefield in a violent explosion. When the light fades, there is nothing left. Kevidubu and the Hydra are completely erased, as if they were never there at all. Silence returns to the ruined ground, broken only by the fading echo of power. After the battle, Yoko rushes forward and throws her arms around Schneider, holding him tightly as tears fall from her eyes. She pleads with him, demanding that he bring Lucien back again, as if she is afraid of losing both versions of him forever. Schneider responds with unsettling calm, explaining that he and Lucien are not separate beings. He tells her they share one soul, one existence, and even one capacity to love. Whoever Lucien cares for, he also cares for, in his own twisted way. But Yoko's doubt does not disappear, and her silence gives away her fear. Seeing it, Schneider suddenly pulls her closer and kisses her again, without warning. The moment their lips meet, the seal activates immediately. Dark energy collapses inward instead of outward, and Schneider's body rapidly shrinks and changes. In seconds, the terrifying sorcerer is gone, replaced once again by Lucien, who falls unconscious from the strain. The battlefield quiets as if nothing had happened. And just like that, Dark Schneider is sealed once more inside the fragile boy who cannot remember what he has become. Yoko stands frozen, breathing heavily, fully aware that this power is not gone, only waiting for the next moment it will awaken again. Peace in Metallicana turns out to be nothing more than a fragile illusion. After Schneider is sealed once again, Yoko holds Lucien tightly, overwhelmed with relief at having him back. In the distance, the king and Princess Sheila confirm what they just witnessed was real. The legendary sorcerer has returned, but far beyond the castle walls, another presence is already observing. Gara, one of the 4 heavenly kings, watches everything unfold from afar with his ninja forces hidden around him. His eyes narrow as he studies the aftermath and confirms the use of the venom spell. That alone is enough proof. Schneider the Dark has truly been revived. His mind drifts back to 15 years ago, when he once followed Schneider during his world conquest. Yet something feels off now. Instead of destruction, Schneider chose to protect a kingdom. That contradiction unsettles him. Gara questions the reason behind such behavior and orders his ninjas to uncover the truth. Without hesitation, he declares that if Schneider stands in his way again, he will kill him personally. His forces move immediately, launching a sudden assault on a group of castle guards. Gaara draws his Murasama sword and unleashes a demonic slash. A violent wave of energy tears through the battlefield in an instant, cutting down the guards effortlessly. The attack is swift, brutal, and leaves no survivors behind. It becomes clear that Gaara is far beyond ordinary opponents. Inside the throne room, High Priest Geo explains the meaning of the black clouds covering the sky. It is not just a storm, it is a warning. The evil god Anthrasax is beginning to awaken, and one of its seals has already been broken at Judas Castle. Geo then reveals something even more disturbing. The mastermind behind everything is Cal Su, once Schneider's disciple and closest companion. This is not random chaos. It is a carefully designed plan. At the same time, deep underground in a hidden shrine, Abigail continues a dark ritual. As he chants, he senses the heartbeat of the evil god growing stronger. He announces that their next target is Metallicana, where another seal remains. If it breaks, Anthrasax will be fully unleashed upon the world. The danger is no longer distant. It is closing in fast. Faced with this threat, the ministers once again beg Yoko to summon Schneider, but she refuses firmly. She does not want Lucian to be used as a weapon again, or risk losing him to that darkness. That night, back at home, Yoko finds no peace. She lies awake, caught between fear and responsibility as the events replay in her mind. Lucian, sensing her distress, tries to comfort her in his own innocent way. He changes his appearance, adding cat ears and a tail in an attempt to make her smile, then promises he will never become Schneider again. For a brief moment, the tension softens, but that fragile calm is shattered when Gaara suddenly breaks into Yoko's room. Before she can react, he captures her effortlessly, pinning her down despite her resistance. Her attempts to fight back are useless against his strength. Gaara begins questioning her, demanding to know how to break Schneider's seal. Yoko refuses to give him any answers. His patience wears thin as he tries to force the truth from her, escalating the situation into something far more dangerous. And just when it seems there is no way out, something unexpected begins to unfold. Lucian, who had been sleeping nearby, suddenly speaks out in Schneider's voice, commanding, "Stop! She is my woman!" The room falls into stunned silence. Gaara freezes, realizing the implication immediately. Schneider is still present inside the boy's body. Yoko is shaken, unable to understand how this is still possible. From within Lucian's form, Schneider explains that the seal is weakening and his consciousness is slipping through more easily than before. At that exact moment, Geo and several disciples rush into the room, but the situation shifts instantly. Gaara reacts without hesitation. In one swift motion, he seizes Yoko and escapes through the chaos. Moments later, he is already airborne on a wyvern waiting outside, disappearing into the night sky. His voice carries back as he declares that Yoko will be taken to the ninja fortress, where the interrogation will continue. Inside the throne room, panic spreads among the ministers. With Yoko gone and Schneider sealed, there is no clear way to resist what is coming. Hope begins to collapse. Then Princess Sheila steps forward. She calmly declares that she will be the one to release Schneider. Despite the king's immediate objections, she refuses to back down. She explains that she has been training in white magic and is prepared to take responsibility, even if it costs her life. She approaches Lucian and informs him that Yoko has been taken. Then she begins chanting a sacred spell in the name of Enomoto. Without hesitation, she leans in and kisses him. A burst of blue light erupts across the room. In an instant, Dark Schneider is revived once again, standing in his usual form. For a moment, he looks around in confusion, sensing a different presence than before. Gio and the ministers quickly fall to their knees, begging him to rescue Yoko and confront the four heavenly kings. At first, Schneider refuses. His tone is cold, indifferent, and unbothered. Princess Sheila's patience breaks, and she lashes out at him, calling him selfish and ungrateful. In response, Schneider snaps back, declaring that once he conquers the world, he will take everything he desires, including both Yoko and Sheila. Without warning, he pulls Sheila in and kisses her forcefully. The room freezes. When she finally pulls away, she strikes him hard across the face, furious and humiliated, calling him a greedy bastard and expressing her disappointment. Everyone expects retaliation, but Schneider simply calls her a foolish princess and turns away, leaving the tension hanging in the air. And so, my loyal squire, this chronicle comes to an end. Will Schneider, the powerful wildcard Princess Sheila unleashed, stand as the kingdom's salvation? Or will his dangerous power turn her act into the spark that ruins them all? If you wish to see what comes next, speak it below, and perhaps the next chronicle shall be revealed.